Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Raise the Vibe with Liz. I'm your host, Liz Peterson, and today I am chatting with Jane Asher, who's the author of The Next Room. For those of you who aren't familiar with Jane, I'm going to read her bio really quick. So, after a successful career in media and the music industry, Jane Asher stepped away from terrestrial radio and launched her podcast, The Next Room. To Jane, death is a dinner conversation. She interviews professionals and practitioners about death, dying, grief, beliefs, afterlife, and cultural traditions surrounding the journey we all must ultimately make. Her book, The Next Room, is a story transcending space and time of a relationship between mother and daughter that grew stronger through death. Written together by initially enlisting interpretation through a psychic medium, the book takes us on a daughter's journey through learning eternal life lessons on forgiveness, grief, grace, gratitude, and the limitless love of all, God. Jane is passionate about mission work, especially those helping women and children. She travels outside the United States to build homes and schools and to feed the homeless. Jane lives in San Diego with her husband, Tom. Jane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Liz. It's just such a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to having you on my podcast too when I get back from this next trip. But I really appreciate the opportunity because it's not often a podcaster gets to sit on the other side of the microphone.
Right? It's a
Normally
different experience.
it is a much different experience. So, and I love it. I mean, I love to talk about my story. So it is an honor to be here. So thanks for the invitation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jane. And I'm so excited about this conversation. As I was saying before I press record, like this is right in my wheelhouse. I've been really enjoying your book. I recommend everybody read this. All of the lessons are fantastic that you and your mom, because you're co-writing this, you co-wrote this book together, share with everyone. And I kind of want to dive in because I really resonate with all of the material. So, but I want you to sort of sum up what the book is about and how you came upon what was your journey in writing this book?
Boy, that's a loaded question, but I'll try to keep it brief. I always felt like I was going to write a book, and I always wanted to do it with my mom when she was on this side. And I even, to the point where when I was a younger woman, gave her a journal. And I was like, hey, will you write down your thoughts, write down your advice, your wisdom? And I think she just thought I was, I don't know. She just probably donated it, and I never did find it. So I always wanted to write a book and I always thought I would. But then after she crossed, I was just so devastated. I was lost. I'm like this little girl at the age of 49 who lost her mommy. It was really difficult because she was my best friend. And so I was just writing in a journal, in journaling about it. And, different things were happening. She was showing me that she was very much right here. And I kept writing about it. And anybody that would listen, I would talk about it too. I think some people probably thought it was a little crazy. But I got bolder and bolder with it. And then the podcast developed, and it was all about death, dying, grief, afterlife, you name it, green burial. And after that got going, it sort of gave me the courage, I guess, to sort of push forward because I was meeting all these intriguing people that have different beliefs, not trying to force anything on anyone, but it really opened me up. The podcast sort of like, all these people were coming to me. And so then I kept writing more, and I was doing social media to make money. And when COVID hit, I said to my husband, I lost a big client, big. And I said, what am I going to do? How am I going to make money? The whole world shut down. And Tom said, you're going to write your flippin' book. And it was just like, oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. I'll get busy. So at the time it was in probably 3 or 4 different journals. I had started a manuscript on my laptop. I had the name that a friend gave to me, The Next Room Budgie. And I just kind of started piecing it together. And lo and behold, I'm out here every day during COVID, couldn't go anywhere, and sobbing as I'm writing, and for lack of a better term, kind of channeling my mother. And it just sort of kind of happened. And then, I was afraid to put it out. I'm like, oh my gosh. But my mom's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. So that's sort of how it all kind of, there's other pieces, but.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Jane. And I
You bet.
love in the beginning of the book how you share you and you share your family and you share your experience with your mother and then your father's passing. And I love how you call it the next room. They've gone to the next room. I love that phrase. And I like how, we really see, like, I really feel like after reading your book, I know you and your parents, your family. You really bring us in.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good people. My dad really got the whole party started. You know, I I've met a lot of interesting people throughout being in radio. And so when I was in my 20s, I worked at a rock station up in Santa Barbara, and we used to have on this very well-known psychic, Pamela Osley, and she would come on the air and we would connect her with our listeners. They'd call in, ask Pam a question. Pam would say, what's your natural born hair color and your eye color? And they would tell her, and then she would tune in and tell them these extraordinary things about their life: surprise pregnancies, windfalls of money, maybe a little health issue they should look out for. So at the time, I'm like, wow, this woman's, I didn't believe it because Midwest, I was never introduced to a psychic, but she and I became friends. And I actually went to her and had a reading. And every single thing she told me that day in her home came through. Just crazy, like so many stories. But so here it is, flash forward. Mom crosses in 2010. My big sister leaves in 2016. Dad's still going strong, big strapping lad. He makes it to 2018. But prior to him crossing, he came out here and hung out with the family and came out to see my kids and came for both high school graduations. And one day he came to me and he said, Janie, I want to meet your friend. I want to talk to your friend. And I'm like, Dad, you're going to have to be a little bit more specific. I have a lot of friends. He goes, that one that does seances. I started laughing. I'm like, oh, my friend Pam. I'm like, okay, I don't know what you think she can do for you, but I'll see if she'll, talk to you. And I said, however, she's very expensive, but maybe she'll do you a favor. Sure enough, Pam's like, of course I'm going to talk to your dad. That day in my backyard was kind of the beginning of it all, because I left Dad and Pam alone, and I kept peeking around the corner to see if he was off the phone. And I'm thinking, what is going on? My grieving 80, what he was 80, how old was he then? 86, 83, I don't know, 84-year-old dad on the phone with this very brilliant friend who makes good money doing this, and she's doing it for free. And I see that he's hung up, and I went outside and he's sitting there with tears streaming down his face. And I'm like, oh, great, Jane, what'd you do? I said, Dad, I'm so sorry. And he goes, no, it's okay. And I go, what's going on? He goes, she was here. And I'm like,
No.
I'm looking around like, what are you talking about? Who was here? And he goes, your mother was here. Come on. She's sending a recording. So he bolted across my living room. We came out, we sat down. I sat him right here in my studio chair, pulled up a stool next to him, and we started listening to my mother coming through Pam, telling very specific things that only Mom and Dad would know. And furthermore, my folks didn't even own a computer. They didn't have a cell phone. Well, he did eventually, but no computer, no email. You could Google them and find zero. So, and obviously she didn't do that, but it was so awesome. And that day started the recordings. And from that moment on, I thought, what do you give a guy that you know, he's got everything he could possibly need except the love of his life by his side. So I gifted him a yearly phone call, and he always did it around her birthday in April. And he would call it, he would say, I want to call your mom. And Pam would give him a good hour of her time, and he would visit and ask questions. And so I became the keeper after he left. I ended up with all the recordings. And so that's sort of the book was, I don't know what the book was. It was like the next room connecting with my mom. But then after dad left, I thought, son of a gun, I've got all of these recordings so I can incorporate that in. So I called and got Pam's blessing. I said, you know, my sister Lynn gave me the idea. I'm like, I'm on a plane coming home after her funeral. I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to write this book with me here and mom in the other room? And she's like, ask your friend Pam. And so that was one of the lightning bolts that started the whole thing. And so God bless my dad, because this book would not be the book that it is had this, you know, we're talking very staunch Lutheran man, church every Sunday, who was open enough to say, I believe that. And that's all he wanted to know, is that my mother was just somewhere behind that curtain, behind the veil, waiting for him. You know, they were best friends, 62 years, you know, and he's like, she took my heart with her, you know, I need her. And that's all he needed to know, is that she would be waiting for him. And she was like, Donald, get cracking, you know, you get living, get busy living. You're going to be on this side for a long time. And he was. He lived like almost 8 years longer. He lived 91 right up until he died. He literally had such a rich life after she left, because she told him, you know, because he was sort of, we literally thought he was going to leave like months after her, because he was like, oh, I'm just marking time. You know, I have nothing to live for. And all of us were getting really ticked off at him. It's like, dude, you have 6 children, 13 grandchildren. You got great grandchildren, 2 at the time. You know, get busy living. You're gonna, you know, you only have X amount of time. So I know I'm hopping all over the place, because the book has so many different elements and things that came in that made it the book that it is today. But I feel so blessed that that my dad was that kind of open spiritual conduit to make it happen, because he wasn't sure. He even told me after he died, I had a reading with Pam a few months later, because I was all sad, and I'm like, what do I do? And I'm writing, of course, thinking I'm writing a book. And Pam basically said, you know, your dad said he wasn't sure about you connecting with your mother while he was on this side and how you were going to write the book. But now he sees it. He gets it. And he thinks it's going to help a lot of people, and just get busy, like basically like get her done. And that was the message from him. So it was really great. I feel him all the time. Didn't right away. You know, he sort of, I don't know if he was trying to get his sea legs or what the deal was. He was pretty quiet once he crossed, but now he's everywhere. He is very present, which is very fun for me.
Oh, I love that for you. And I love how he took the steps to try something that was outside of his comfort zone, maybe.
Absolutely.
Get a reading. And
Yeah.
I love how that eased his grief, and how that was able to then kind of move everyone in this direction towards the book. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Big props to the big guy, because he you know, he sort of opened himself up, and it really took the lid off, and it allowed the entire family to talk about things. I mean, now, you know, my family, they find dimes and they take pictures, and they're like, you know, grandma just said hello. My niece just sent me one this morning. You know, random places. This one was in the middle of her daughter's bed, and I'm like, hi, grandma, and it's cool. It's very much bonded all of us. And we've all been raised in the, of course, you die, you go to heaven, whatever that looks like to you. I now know it's much, much different than what I was taught when I was growing up, which I'm really happy about. There's nothing to fear. It's just beautiful. We just go back to source.
I
So
love how one of the first questions you asked your mother when you were working with Pam was, what is it like on the other side?
I
Can you share
know.
a little bit about that story, about your mom's experience crossing over?
Yeah, she said at first she felt it was impolite to leave because my dad was there, right? So she was back in her home after this long stay at the hospital. But her tenacity and strength brought her back home because she needed to die at home. And what's interesting is the whole time I'm on my knees praying out in California to get her home. I didn't say to let her have a long life. Now that I reflect back, all I was doing is like, I just wanted her home. And
Mm.
lo and behold, she did. She got home. She got home in time to die in my dad's arms in their living room. So she said once she really let go, like once she realized that it was okay to leave, she said it was like nothing that she could have ever fathomed, that it was like this beautiful floating and these memories and this light. And it was so beautiful and it was undescribable. She said there's no way for her to put it into words. So she was trying to have Pam feel it because Pam, obviously, psychic medium, can tune into all of this. And Pam was welling up while we were doing the session. She was like, oh my God, Jane, I've never felt anything like this. Your mother is having me feel what she was feeling as she was crossing. And there was, all these loved ones were waiting, people that she assumed would be waiting for her, but also people she had forgot about, were all there to kind of welcome her home. Um, she just said it was absolutely stunningly beautiful. And that, how in life, we think we see what's right in front of us, right? Here's my pen, here's my book, my pad of paper. But she said, it's like thousands of pieces of shards of glass and they're all thrown on the ground. And once you're there, you have the awareness that we've never been separated, that it all comes together, that we're all parts of this greater expression. Yeah, it was just really cool. Like I go back and read parts of the book just to help myself because I get good at being human. I get good at, having an attitude. Or I get angry about the stupid things in life. And then I'm like, I can hear her. She's like, really? You know, you might want to read that little chapter on gossip again. That's not doing anybody any good. If you don't have something kind to say, don't say it. It does no good to talk about things or people. It doesn't help anything. So I'm happy to say I'm actually in the middle of writing the next book with her right now. It's great. We're gonna take it to the next level, which
Awesome.
is
I can't wait.
yeah, yeah, me too. Me too. She's laughing because I'm finding myself very busy with a lot of things so that uh, my fear gets in the way. The thought of, uh-oh, how is this going to be received? But you know what? The beautiful thing is the first book was so well received and better than any expectation. I had no expectations. I was so afraid. And then after a while, to hear from people and random strangers and saying how it changed their life, I'm like, okay. It was good to put my fear aside and put my heart out there and not fear the unknown. And truly, does it matter anyway? If somebody thinks I'm crazy, oh well, that's their opinion. Doesn't really matter now, does it? All I have is what I have, And I know if it doesn't come out and if I don't share it, then I'm not living my true purpose. I'm not living the reason in the agreements that I made before. I'm not doing what I set forth to do. And now I know that with every fiber of my being, that I made these decisions and now I have to see them through. So it's fun. It's fun. I just don't want to check out of here into the next room before I'm finished like that. And I know that's like this unnatural fear, right? Because I'm getting ready to take an international flight and I'm like, oh, okay, I better tell my daughter where my manuscript is, finish this if I don't get home. But I know I know I'm going to get home because I can already see it. So, but still, natural fears, I guess.
Mhm. And you talk about that in the book, or your mom, when you're talking with her and you're asking her lots of really important questions, things that you ponder while you're walking the dog, and then you sit down and write with her and channel these answers in. And I love the information that's being brought in. So let's talk a little bit about that. I kind of want to circle back to what you said about that oneness, that she experienced over on the other side. So let's jump into God. God is everywhere, God versus the universe, and that spiritual intelligence that's over on the other side, that oneness that we experience over on the other side that she talks about.
Okay. Well, God's a big one. And I'm only using the word God because that was what I was raised with, right? So God to me is all, everything, the spiritual intelligence, the divine beloved, throw Jesus into the mix. That's just what I'm comfortable using. Not everyone likes to use that word and they'll say the universe has a big ear. When I asked her to describe and pull those two apart, she said, God is all. God is everything. God is all that you see, all that you feel, and all that you don't. Things that you have forgotten about, and galaxies and universes. Our universe is just one little container. I mean, if you think about it and you back away from our universe, it's very small in the grand scheme of things. So the universe, though, is like the container that holds all that goodness that we are experiencing right now in this moment. So, universal principles, universal law, all of that good stuff I'm a fan of. But God is so much bigger. It's indescribable because it is you, it is me, it is this moment, it is the little teeny starfish, it's the ants crawling around on the ground, it's everything. And you can vibrate with that love as like I walk my dog and I walk my puppy and I literally bless every home and the sidewalk and the trees and the butterflies and I just really let go and try to be in that space of complete love, because that's what she's described it to me as. And I'm getting better. I'm getting better about tuning in and really welcoming that love, because it's magnificent. I mean, if we would understand how big and beautiful and bold and loving and forgiving it is, we would never fear anything. But again, we're in these human bodies with these minds and these hearts and thoughts, and we can get pretty messed up in there. We kind of got to get out of our own way.
I like how you were saying that you're giving gratitude as you're going on your walk. And you do talk about gratitude in the book and the meaning of gratitude and the way we look at life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my first thought. And I don't know if it always was. I've kind of almost trained myself when I first wake up and I open my eyes, I just say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I go down the list of my physical features, of the home that I'm blessed to have, my husband and I have this great saying, something will happen. Like, say, for instance, our refrigerator broke and we have another one in the garage. And we'll just say, well, that's a quality problem. Do you know how many people on the planet have no refrigeration at all? And our big fancy one broke, but yet we've got our little old fashioned one that works beautifully. That's a quality problem. So we have switched the way that we look at things when something maybe not good or not cool happens. It's like, okay, that's a quality problem. We're fortunate. Yeah, your car broke down. Well, we have my car. So till we get yours fixed, we've got one car. Big deal. I get to stay home. It's not a problem. People get so wrapped up in those things in life that happen, and they, it's so tragic. It's tragic. It's like, no, tragic is losing a child. Tragic is a friend that has stage 4. There are things that are tragic, but then again, are they really? Or are those pieces of what we're here to learn? I'm not sure. I guess I'll know once I get to the next room.
And one of the answers that I loved was when you were asking about difficult people and different situations, and how it's just that shift of perception. And I like how you pointed out, like, oh, the refrigerator is not, this is a quality problem. It's just that switch in perception that takes it from totally ruining your day
Right.
to, okay, well, I'm
Right.
grateful to have refrigeration. It's just a
Right.
little quick fix.
Yeah. Well, right when we were in the 2020, obviously there was a lot going on. There still is politically, people arguing, families falling apart, attacking each other on Facebook. And I was very upset about what was going on the planet at the time. And she could see that I was upset about it. And without getting political, I didn't want to name names or say this person or this party or that party. But I love her description. It was like, stay in your own lane. And that's not to say stick your head in the sand. You need to have awareness, but get involved with what it is. If something bothers you, if you're worried about the homeless on the planet, make sandwiches and go to a park and feed them. Or donate your time to a church that builds homes in Mexico. Or if you're upset about the direction of the politics on the planet, volunteer for a program that you believe in. If you want to save the environment, get involved, plant trees. So I really love that she was talking about they're only difficult if you view them as such. And that has helped me a lot. So whenever a particular person that upsets me, or I don't like their thought process, or at least I think I don't like it, I got to be telling, I pray for them. I pray for them, and it just helps me release any kind of anxiety or angst or unfounded anger. Why am I angry at this person? Do I really know what this individual has going on in their heart? No, I only know what I've got going on. So I can shift my perception and, just wish for that person to have their highest good come to them, whatever that is. And she really, really helped me through a lot of that, and still is helping me. I don't listen to the news. I just find that it is extremely toxic, and it isn't news anymore. News went away with the fabulous Walter Cronkite, when our newscasters actually were reporting the truth as it was being fed. Now everybody's a pundit. Everyone has an opinion. And you know what they say about opinions? So I choose not to listen to it because it's a bunch of rhetoric. It's a bunch of angry people talking over each other. Instead, I put on classical music. Not to say I'm not aware. I am fully aware of what's going on the planet, but I choose to put my energy into things that I can help shift. I want to uplift women and children. I want to help feed the homeless. I want to help build a structure for someone that never had a structure. Those are things that resonate with me. And so that's where I put my energy. And it's all love, because it's all back to giving another individual hope. What's better than that? So, but that's just me. It works for me, you know?
And I like that giving back. You also talk about that in the book, that giving back, that oneness, that it's not all about us, that we're a learning planet that's teaching. And then when we get on the other side, there's even more learning, that we have all these options to learn even more.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, Liz. That's a very good point. It's like, for me, I just want to learn as much as possible. A good day for me is when I can say, I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, I just learned something new. And I can honestly say that happens every single day because of the nature of what I do for a profession. I am constantly being educated about cool new thought, higher consciousness, reaching for an elevated perspective. And I just absolutely thrive on that. And I dig that I'm doing it now, but I also know that when I plug back in to the other side, it's going to be like, holy wow, this is extraordinary. But like I said, and I always like to preface that, I have a lot to do here now still. So I really hope, I always tease my kids, I'm like, I hope I'm around just so that you get to the point you're just annoyed enough that you're not too sad when I check out at like the tender age of 93. And they laugh because, my kids, they know their mom is like, oh, do we have to talk about death again, mom? I'm like, yes, we do. It's dinner conversation. God darn it. So yeah, my kids are fully aware, and they don't have any fear surrounding it, um, because of the fact that we have been peeling back these layers for so many years now. So it's good, and they're only in their 20s, but they're highly evolved and elevated on these concepts. So I learned from them, which is really great.
That's beautiful. And it's so true. It really does. Like, knowing that life goes on eases, that fear around death and dying. It eases the fear around our family members passing on over to the other side, to the next
Yeah.
room, as you
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. And it's not to say that we don't grieve and that we don't miss them. I mean, oh my goodness, I grieve hard. I'm still grieving. I don't believe that grief is something you put in a box and you pack away. You just learn how to, like, put it on like a comfortable old sweater. Um, I don't cry every day now, except tears of happiness when a butterfly floats by and I go, "Hey, Dad." Um, but grief is okay. It's not anything to be ashamed of, and we should never, ever try to tell someone how to grieve. I really welcome different ideas, and I'm just amazed at, when people think, oh, it's been a year, get over it. No, it's been 13 for my mom, and I'm still like, I light a candle in the morning and I've got this little picture of her in the kitchen, and I'm like, good morning, mommy. I'm like, I miss you. I miss that physicality. I miss touching her hand and going to the grocery store with her and having an afternoon cocktail or morning coffee. And with my dad, oh my God, the spiritual conversations that old fart and I had were amazing. Like, he was super deep. Like, he wanted to dive into reincarnation. He wanted to talk about it all. And he was very versed in the Bible. This guy could say the books of the Bible backward, and I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
He knew his Bible. He read out of his prayer book every single morning and every night. Um, but he had bigger thoughts than just what was taught, because it is bigger. There's no way you can cram all of that information into one space. There's just no feasible explanation to be able to put it in one space. And I know I'm opening up myself to criticism when I speak like this, but it's okay, because these are my thoughts.
Mhm.
And the education that I've garnered from having these amazing, I keep looking at all of them, they're all here in my studio, having this team in the next room, and those that I don't even know. I mean, I talk to a lot of different people that I have never met. I just love to open up and bring those spirits in a very safe way. You know, it's not creepy or scary at all. They're right here. This room is
Great.
packed right now.
And I definitely want to talk about our tribe, our healing team on the other side, and how we're never alone. But I do want to touch a little bit about what you said in your book, how your mom shared about religion and about God. And I actually want to dip into that a little bit, because I liked the perspective that it's bigger than what we're mentally capable of making it here on the planet in our
Yeah.
little boxes.
Yeah. You know, she really liked my dad going to church. Like, she would reiterate that through their yearly call. Like, she liked him going to church because, you know, where two or more are gathered, right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And the Bible has a lot of genuine nuggets in there. My favorite is God is love. That's all you need to know. Love your neighbor as yourself. Really? How do I do that? Well, you do that because if you are one with your neighbor, like I am the Brigantes, I do love them like I love myself. So she was, in a very gentle way, trying to educate, and she would point at the Bible while she was showing Pam. She would say, you know, there are human foibles in there. It's open to interpretation. There's the Old Testament and there's the New Testament. There's the Torah. There's all kinds of different religions on the planet, but what they all boil down to, every single one, is that this supreme energy, this being, God, if you will, is love. And we all may travel a different way to get there. We all may pray differently. We all may use different language. Some people will say, I'll hold a good thought versus a prayer because they don't like the whole connotation with religion. But really, we're all saying the same thing. It's just a different language. There's no way on this one little planet that we have that we can possibly all get to the same agreement other than love. It's kind of universal, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so that's really fun. And I really appreciate that. I want to learn more about that. I think culturally, when we get out and we talk to other individuals and we really start to explore not just how we were raised, but how other people were raised, it just is fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. And even, you know, I've got dear friends that are atheists, and I don't think there's anything wrong with their belief system. It's how they choose to believe. It's what, you know, and they just believe it's like game over, right? And I had an atheist on my podcast, a good buddy of mine, and I said, well, when I cross and go to the next room and you cross and go to the next room, I'm going to find you and say, told you so. And he burst out laughing. He thought that was the funniest darn thing ever. So, you know, you can tease and you can have fun. And I always say that God doesn't believe in atheists. You know, think about that.
Wow.
So there, so
That's
there you go. So but it's okay. I don't, you know, if that's what you need to get through this life experience, if that's the belief system that you need to have,
Mhm.
more power to you. I am not going to sit on you and say, no, but you have to believe this, because I don't even know. I was raised in a very, you know, we marched up like we were the Kennedys and always late for church and sat 3 pews from the left on the front. And never miss church, because my dad would say, if you miss church, your week doesn't go right, and he tithed. He gave 10% of his earnings back to the church, and he was on the church council. And I have 3 siblings that still belong to the same church that all of us were baptized and confirmed. And I don't know how many weddings were in this church. And I absolutely love that church. But I also enjoy expansion and thinking, but when I'm in that church, I'm all about it. I love everything about that church and the people there. Why, when people are gathered in the name of whatever it is in their heart, let's just say love, when people are gathered together in love, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. A lot of people, you can move mountains with prayer or collective thought or collective consciousness. We've proven that time and time again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everybody's got their own journey in this lifetime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Their
Yeah.
own
I don't
journey
have,
to
I'm just,
love.
yeah, I'm just figuring it out for Jane, I mean,
Yeah.
this works for me. It may not work for everyone. My husband has his own journey. She even helped me you know, to allow my children and my husband to grow the way that they need to grow, instead of always trying to control. Because as being a mom, we do have a tendency to want to, tell them what to do, how to do it, where to do it, what color it is, what to eat, when to eat. But that helped me out a lot with my children. And I can say that they're truly 2 of my favorite people. They're my friends, but I also allow them the grace to explore and be their own people. But I know that they were raised with right from wrong, and they were raised with just an incredible amount of love and a bigger, vast understanding of what this life experience is. So I trust that they will make good decisions.
Nice. That's all we can hope for, right? As
Yeah.
parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's dive into this big existence and talk about our family on the other side, our team, how spirit helps us, how that shows up. And I kind of want to dip into, the layers of it too, that we're kind of fractal beings where, it's not just being in one place, that we have many options and places our souls can be at the same time.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about connection with the souls that have gone before us, or signs that we receive? Those are kind of 2 different arenas.
Let's start with the first and move into the signs and how they show up for us.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different thought to this, but there is something called soul grouping, which I'm sure you're aware of, where we have made decisions when we are in spirit on the other side of those individuals that are in our group. They're always going to be with us. They're, some are our guardian angels, some are our guides, some we know by sight because we've lived with them this lifetime. And then some we forgot that we made deals with. And then we're like, oh, I remember you. And then some, like my mother and I, have gone through numerous together, even to the point where years ago, for some reason, radio, you're always talking to psychics because it's good radio. We had one on the radio station, and she said, Jane, you were your mom's mom. That's why you're so devastated because of her leaving. And I'm like, what? I was Grandma Emma? She's like, no, you weren't your mom's mom this lifetime. In another lifetime, you were your mother's mom. And I'm like, okay. Oh, that made so much sense. It was like, pew. No wonder I was so protective of her. I mean, literally like brushing her hair and massaging her shoulders and holding her hand. We always held hands. I mean, here's a grown woman swinging her mom's arm as we would walk into the grocery store. And there was just this undeniable closeness. And she has 6 children, and we all adored her. She was the queen of the castle, without a doubt. There wasn't anyone that didn't absolutely adore her. It was kind of like, what's not to love, right? And I think if you spoke to each one of us, we would all say, yeah, we were mom's favorite. Absolutely, without a doubt. But yeah, so there is a connection that we have with these individuals that we have decided to play with. They're in our group, they're in they're on the playground with us in the next room. And then when we come back here, when we make those decisions to come back in. So yeah, it's pretty darn cool. And then there are those that are like these guides, these really strong spiritual guides that you can actually go meet. There are many, many ways to do it. I am not a psychic medium, but I know I've had many people tell me that I have a lot of guides, 8 as a matter of fact, and have talked to me about them specifically and why they have chosen to be with me. And then there's my grandmother, my mom's mom, who I never met physically. Grandma Emma was gone, before I was even a glimmer in my folks' eyes. But for some reason, Grandma has come to me over and over. And then my mom, for my 21st birthday, she's like, what do you want? And I said, I want a locket. And she gave me Grandma Emma's locket. She's got a lot of other daughters. There's 5 of us, but, and I didn't ask for Grandma's locket. I just wanted a locket, and she wanted me to have it. So I have it. I've now gifted it to my daughter, Betty. Betty will have it hopefully someday. Who knows? It's from the 1800s, and it's not worth anything other than sentimental value. But it's those gifts that we leave behind that have this energy in them. And so my mom's picture's in there, and my grandma Emma's picture's in there. So it's really great. And I don't know why, but Emma decided that she would look out for me. And I've talked to my sister, one of my sisters, she said that her guide is my other grandmother, Viola. And I don't feel Viola at all, other than when I look at pictures, I'm like, oh, I just heard so many great stories about her. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so there's all kinds of guides out there. It's amazing.
Wow. And speaking of gifts, your mother leaves you dimes.
She does indeed.
Family dimes, which is really cool. Talk about those signs and how they try to communicate with us.
Yeah. Well, shortly after she crossed over, I didn't realize it, but I was finding dimes, and I didn't think anything of it because I'm one of those kids that would bend down to pick up a dirty penny and put it in my left shoe, right? So we had a psychic on the radio station that I was working at on the time. It was leading up to Halloween, and her name's Marissa. She was from LA. We would connect her with listeners, and they would call in and say, oh, I want to connect with my husband, Bob. And she would talk to him and connect him. And it was really good radio. We did it for like the week leading up to Halloween. And at the end of the session with Marissa, we got on really great. I desperately wanted to talk to her about Mom, but I knew she was there to do a, professional job. When we were off the air the last night, she just said, Jane, I'm, your mom, I don't know if you realize this, but your mother is sending you dimes. I don't know what the significance is, but just know when you find one that they're from her. So great. I come home, tell my husband about it. He's like, oh, we got to start collecting them. So we got this little velvet bag, and every time we'd find a dime, we would put it in there. He starts finding them. Thomas finds them. Betty finds them. Every time I tell a family member about it, they're like taking pictures. They're like, look what I found in the church parking lot. So everybody that I tell about it, friends, family, you name it, start finding dimes. Betty says hello. So then I go to mail a package to my dad. Of course, he's still alive, for his birthday. And I go to Office Depot to mail the package. And right then, as I'm standing there, a dream flooded over me like a dream recall. And in the recall, I got dizzy, so I had to hang on to the side of the thing that I was mailing the package. And my mom was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I propped myself up and I said, Mom, what's the deal with the dimes? And she said, I like to see you smile. And there it was. It was simplistic. It wasn't this big, deep meaning. It was just like her, short, sweet, direct, to the point. And as I turn, I kid you not, I turn to leave the store, right down, and my right toe is one shiny dime. I bent down, I picked it up. I'm laughing the whole way out of the store. I'm talking to my mom. I'm sure all the people at Office Depot were thinking, look at the crazy lady, you know, holding the dime, talking to herself. So that happened. I go back to the radio station, tell my producer about the story about the dimes and mailing the package and the recall and everything. And he said, are you writing it down? It would be a great blog, or you could put it in your invisible magical book you're going to write someday. So I swiveled around to pick up a pad of paper like this in the studio and the radio. And something caught my eye, and I looked, and down underneath with all the cords and the dust bunnies, one dime.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And so I bent down laughing, picked it up, swiveled, and showed JJ, and he said, hi, Mom. So that actually, what's the deal with the dimes, is a chapter in the next room in the book. So it went from dimes to metaphysical manifestation through her best friend's eyes. That was insanely cool. And that's never happened again, only once. To where, you know, my dad plays with electronics. He switched the music on me. My best friend who crossed, I was devastated. I was there the day she died and held her hand. I'm sobbing, and I was creating a playlist for her, and the music switched over to a song by the Eagles, and with the lines, take it easy. You know, just cool things. Electronics are a favorite one. Lights are also flickering of lights, feathers, coins, nature. You know, when an animal shows up just randomly, like a bizarre, you know, like, what is that doing there? It is a message. It's a messenger, and somebody's trying to get your attention. And we don't always know what it is, and that's okay. Just start writing it down, you know. Be open, be curious. That's what I love to live with, that curiosity. Think about, you know, we're here and we have this physical existence, but there's these layers of all these other spirits. How much more fun is it to play in the physical realm and then also to play beyond with the next realm? It's really powerful. It's super fun. It gives me great joy. You know, my husband's always, he's like, what are you talking to me? He'll be back in his office in the house. And I'm like, no, just having a conversation with Mom, or just ask Grandma to help me make the same grandmother who's my guide, or one of my guides, my guardians. She lived on an egg farm, and I, for the life of me, could not make a fried egg for my son. And then I thought, I should just ask Grandma Emma to help me. I asked her one time, boom, perfect fried eggs. Didn't break the yolk. So whenever I'm going to fix things, I ask for my Uncle Doug. The guy could fix everything. He was a jack of all trades. This guy was a woodworker and a baker and a candlestick maker. Anytime I need to fix something in the house, I'm like, all right, Uncle Doug, let's go. You know, my sister Lynn, if I'm painting, she loved to paint and was decorating, and we always tease her about the weather, because she basically said she controlled the weather when she was alive on this side. So whenever we're having a family event, we all put her in charge every single time. We're like, Lynn, you said you had the weather. We would really appreciate a perfect day, 75, nice little breeze, no rain. So it's kind of fun. It's fun to ask for their help and their guidance. And if they can't do it, someone else will step in that can, that we may not know, because maybe it's not their forte, or maybe it's not their position to help you with whatever it is that you need help with. And it can come in forms of just quietly sitting with you while you're grieving. That's a source of help too, of comfort, or maybe to help someone get off drugs or to keep someone sober. There's so many things that they can help us with. However, we do need to open up and ask. They're not just going to come in and, and they're not watching us in the shower. It's not like that. It's like, it's this energy, and they see us as energy beings. So we have to rise our vibration and they have to kind of lower theirs. And then we can sort of connect in that space. But they're not going to just kick the door down and freak you out and do weird things and rattle chains. That's not what this is. That's just silly.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that too. And it's a great segue into this next question I want to ask you.
Sure.
How you started being able to let go of your logical mind, start communicating with your mother, channeling your mother, getting this information. And what would you say to our listeners to help them be able to make that connection too?
Oh boy, that's a good question, Liz. And it's one I struggled with, because when I was writing the book, the first part is kind of me growing up, my connection. Part 2 is meeting Pam and my dad's involvement. And then part 3 was me, Mom, and Pam. So me asking questions to Pam, Pam translating my mother back to me. I have all the tapes, and then I would sit here and transcribe. I thought that was the book. I thought, okay, I'm done. I got part 1, I got part 2, I got part 3, I'm good. I scheduled a session with Pam to ask her if Mom felt, not to ask her any more questions because I had a lot of content, but to ask her if she liked the direction of the book. And so I'm having this session with Pam, and Pam goes, okay, Betty. Okay, I'll tell her. Your mother says she likes the direction of the book. However, there's going to be a prologue, an epilogue, and there's going to be a part 4. And I'm like, what? Okay, all right. Okay, I'll tell her. Your mother also says that you do not need me to connect. You do not need me to hear your mother's messages, that she's actually been in communication with you from the second she crossed. And you know this to be true, that you need to get out of your own way, get quiet, it's funny, and listen, and it will come to you. And so once that message was delivered, I'm like, oh, what? I'm not psychic. I'm not a medium. I don't know how to do this. I have no idea how to do this. And I spoke to my husband, and he said, I think you just have to get quiet and listen. And I said, all right. And so I started doing this meditative walk. And I listened to the same music over and over and over. It's Ludovico Einaudi. He's this Italian classical pianist, just brilliant, inspirational. And I just opened up my laptop after I did my meditation. I lit my candle. I have my favorite picture of Mom and I on the beach. And I literally put my arms up and I said, okay, Mom, what is it you'd like me to know? And all I can explain it was sort of like this, my pastor would call it the Holy Spirit tingle, right? It was just like, and it was head to toe tingles. And I just opened up my laptop and it started flowing through me so quickly. And I'm a horrible typist. I mean, I'm one of those hunt and peck and watch your fingers. It was coming through me so fast. And I thought, don't edit, don't edit, don't edit. Just ask, listen, and then write. And that's what I did. And I did that like every single day. I would come out here, and it's just a tiny studio out in our garage. And there's a door that goes right into our kitchen. And my husband would come out and he would open this door right here. And I'd be sobbing as I'm writing. And I would put my hand up like, do not don't look at me, don't bother me. And he would just put a little piece of dark chocolate on the desk, close the door. And that was what I did and then,
Wow.
Liz, it was weird. I would come in the house and, days later, I would reread some of this stuff and I would say, this isn't me. I didn't write this. These are not my thoughts. These are really beyond anything that Jane has ever thought. It was cool. It was really, really cool. And, I miss that daily connection because I will say that it scared me a little bit. And then I thought, can I do it again? And she started laughing and was like, yes, just do what you did before, And so I've started doing it again. I thought maybe that mystical tether was severed, I finished the book and I was done, but no, there's a lot more to talk about. And now too, that he's over there, I have other people to call on, which is really cool. So, and now people are curious. People send me questions all the time. Would you ask your mom this? And I'm like, oh, that's good. Thank you for that. I will ask her that next time I speak to her. So it's fun. So now I'm getting different perspectives are coming in. So we'll see what shape the book takes, but it'll kind of be in the same vein as the first one, but it won't have, I think it'll be more like part one and get right to it. Get right to the conversation.
Sounds like it's going to be some good stuff.
Yeah. Well, we've got to tackle, she showed me years ago with Pam at the very beginning when I had called Pam and said, would you be willing to do this with me? And Pam said, sure. And then she tuned into my mom right there. And I was sitting out on my veranda and she goes, oh. And so Pam was describing what she was showing me, and it was otherworldly. It was not the heaven we all were raised to think, where we're just with our loved ones and our pets and chocolate cake. Other beings. And at the time, this was 6-7 years ago, I was not ready. I was freaked out and I was like, no. And then Pam goes, okay. Your mom says that's going to be book 2 or 3. Don't worry about it.
Nice.
We're going to jump back to what you can handle. And what you can handle is what I have written today. But now I think I'm ready. I'm like, all right, what do you got to show me? Let's go.
I'm looking forward to it. So
yeah,
for
me
those
too.
of you who don't know you and want to get in touch with you and everything that you do, because I can't believe we're already at our hour.
Oh my goodness.
Share with our audience how they can reach you, where they can find your book and your podcast.
Yeah. Okay. I'll show, this is the book for YouTube fans. Okay. It's The Next Room. It's available everywhere, not just through Amazon. Amazon, you can write me a verified review if you read it and you enjoy it. I love that. But it's also available if you don't want to play with the big boy and you just want to go. It's at my local library. You can request it at a Target or a Barnes and Noble or even a mom and pop bookstore. They'll have to order it, of course, because it's not an international bestseller yet. But you can get it anywhere. Or if you want an autographed copy, you can just order it through me. It's thenextroombook.com, thenextroombook.com, or my full name is janeasherrainey.com. And so, yeah, I'm happy to send it. I send them out myself. I autograph them myself. My mother autographs them. I actually went and took her signature and made a stamp so that I can sign it. Because she, she's my co-author and she gave me that idea. I was like, God, Mom, I wish you could sign the book. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you can. Thank you for that. Because I had thousands of beautiful cards and found one that said Betty Asher instead of Love Mom. I don't know how I found that, but I did. So
No
I think a friend.
coincidences.
Yeah, exactly. No, no such thing. Yeah. So, and the podcast is everywhere, obviously, everywhere that you get your favorite podcast like this one with Liz. And I welcome if someone wants to come on the show. Liz, I cannot wait to have you on when I get back from the Congo. And it'll give me a chance to read your book, which I cannot believe the symmetry with our moms.
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really beautiful. And and then I'll have you on and we can talk all about your book, and it won't be me going on, but it'll be you going on and on.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too.
Thanks for having me. And one last question for you
Yes.
while I have you on my show. What is one jewel of wisdom you would like to leave our listeners with?
Mm. Don't be afraid. Just like my mother tells me all the time, expand without fear. There's really nothing to fear. And do that which makes you happy. If you've always wanted to paint, paint. If you've got a book inside of you, get it out. I encourage it. Email me if you want guidance or help. I'll connect you with everybody that's helped me along the way. I'm all about that. I love to help other people. You want to learn how to tango? Learn how to tango. This is a cool life experience we're having. It's very tactile. So dive in and enjoy every second of it. And do not fear being made look a fool, because in the end, does it matter? No, it doesn't.
No.
So just do that which makes you happy and explore. Be curious, not judgmental.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jane. And thank you
Thank you.
so much for being on the show. This has been so great. I really enjoyed having you.
It was an honor. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it.
Thanks. And thank you everyone for listening. Go and listen to Jane's podcast, The Next Room, and find her book. I highly recommend it. It's a great read. You will not be disappointed. And I'm so looking forward to your next book. And we'll have you on again when that happens. So please let
Awesome.
me know. So thanks
Thank you.
everybody for joining us. I'm Liz Peterson, and this is Raise the Vibe. And remember to get out there and raise the vibe, everybody. Have a great day. Bye now.